When you go to the grocery store, you're often bombarded with hundreds of labels shouting at you to buy their food because it was produced in an environmentally friendly way. They might say, "This chicken was free range," or "This tomato was grown organically," but exactly how environmentally friendly is our modern day agriculture? In fact, how sustainable has farming been throughout history anyways? Well, to answer that question, we have to start from the very beginning, around 11,000 years ago. Farming was first invented around 9,500 BC in an area called the Fertile Crescent. This was a huge game changer for the environment. Before farming, humans were just simple hunters and gatherers that took what the environment gave them. But after farming, humans began to alter the land for the first time in history. Farmers around the globe began cutting trees and clearing fields to make room for their beloved beans and broccoli. It didn't take long before people realized that farming crops had some negative side effects on the earth. They saw that if you planted the same crops over the same piece of land year after year, the soil would lose its nutrients and essentially die and become unfarmable. After realizing how unsustainable that would be, farmers began scrambling for a solution, and in the 17th century, a British farmer named Charles Turnip Townshend found one. Yes, people call him Turnip Townshend because of his lifelong obsession with turnips, but that's another story. Anyways, Turnip Townshend discovered that if you left the land fallow for a year and you rotated the type of crops planted each year, the soil would be able to regenerate the nutrients it had lost from the previous years. This system of crop rotation was so successful in keeping the land sustainable that it is still used today in farms all over the world. In 1843, another big discovery shook the farming world and would change farming forever: synthetic fertilizer. The idea was simple. Farmers knew that plants love nitrogen, phosphorus, and all sorts of good things found in the soil, so why not just make a chemical concoction with those nutrients and dump them in the fields to supercharge the plants? Well, farmers did that, but they didn't realize the impact the fertilizer had on the environment. The chemicals from the fertilizers would run off into the lakes and rivers and would cause the algae to grow like crazy, which depleted the oxygen in the waters and killed many fish and other organisms. Unfortunately, nobody realized these effects, and since the fertilizer was increasing the number of crops produced, everyone continued to use it. Then, in the 1940s, the Green Revolution occurred. The Green Revolution was an attempt to drastically increase the amount of food grown to meet the needs of our ballooning population. To do this, the government pushed the farmers to use even more synthetic fertilizer, and they also introduced another weapon to help farmers increase crop yields: synthetic pesticides. These synthetic pesticides did a terrific job at keeping bugs and other animals from harming the plants, but when it came to the environment, the pesticides were anything but helpful. These pesticides were deadly. They would not only kill and poison the bugs that harmed the plants, but they would also kill and poison the beneficial bugs too. Also, rain and wind would often carry the pesticides away from the fields into rivers and lakes, polluting and killing many freshwater species as well. The Green Revolution and both synthetic fertilizers and synthetic pesticides were great when it came to growing more crops. It saved over 1 billion people from starvation. The problem with the Green Revolution was that it wasn't a sustainable solution. By using synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, the farmers could provide more food for the current generation, but they had to sacrifice the quality of the environment and wildlife. Some people began to realize that the future generations wouldn't be able to produce as much food because the land left behind would be destroyed, and so in the late 1970s, the Green Revolution came to an end. Now, most countries have reverted back to organic farming. Many farmers have either completely abandoned pesticides and fertilizers, or instead have opted to use natural fertilizers and pesticides, which are much better for the environment. As modern-day consumers become more aware of the environment, they demand more sustainable and environmentally friendly practices. Throughout history, we've seen farming practices change dramatically with new technologies and innovations. The important thing to remember is that no matter what new technology or innovation we discover, the ultimate solution must be a sustainable one that not only looks out for ourselves, but also the future generations to come.